Welcome to the More You Know. We're in the book of Matthew. Um, I'm going to do something a little bit different because the way they have worded the translation, it is a lot more easy to understand. Okay, so I'm going to be reading them so that maybe we can understand most of the parables that Jesus was describing. In chapter 13, the parable of Jesus, this is going to be the farmer who went out to sow seeds. Later that day, Jesus left the house and sat by the lake shore to teach the people. Soon, there were so many people surrounding him that he had to teach them sitting in a boat while the large crowd stood on the shore. He taught them many things by using stories, parables, to illustrate spiritual truths, saying, "Consider this. There was a farmer who went out to sow seeds. As he cast his seeds, some fell along the beaten path, and the birds came and ate them. Others fell onto gravel that had no topsoil. They quickly shot up. But when the days grew hot, they were scorched and withered because they had insignificant roots. Others fell along the thorns, so when they sprouted, the thorns choked them. But other seeds fell on good, rich soil that kept them producing a good harvest. Some yielded 30, some 60, and some even 100 times as much as he planted. If you're able to understand this, then you need to respond." Then his disciples approached Jesus and asked, "Why do you always speak to people in those hard to understand parables?" And Jesus explains, "You've been given the intimate experience of insight into the hidden mysteries of the realm of heaven's kingdom, but they have not. For everyone who listens with an open heart will receive progressively more revelation until he has more than enough. But those who don't listen with an open, teachable heart, even the understanding that they think that they have will be taken from them. That is why I teach the people using parables, because they think they're looking for the truth, yet because their hearts are unteachable, they will never discover it. Although they will listen to me, they will never fully perceive the message I speak. The prophecy of Isaiah describes them perfectly by saying this, 'Although they listen carefully to everything I speak, they do not understand a thing I say. They look and pretend to see, but the eyes of their hearts are closed. Their minds are dull and slow to perceive. Their ears are plugged and are hard of hearing, and they have deliberately shut their eyes to the truth. Otherwise they would open their eyes to see, and open their ears to hear, and open their minds to understand. Then they would turn to me, and I would instantly heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see. Delighted are your ears, for they are open to hear all these things.' Many prophets and godly people yearn to see these days of miracles that you've been favored to see. They would have given everything to hear the revelation you've been favored to hear. Now you're ready to hear the explanation of the parable of the sower. What was sown along the path represents the one who listens to the message of the kingdom but does not understand it. The adversary then comes, which we know adversary means Satan, and comes and snatches away that was sown into his heart. The one sown on gravel represents a person who gladly hears the kingdom's message, but his experience remains shallow. Shortly after he hears it, troubles and persecutions come because of the kingdom's message he received. Then he quickly falls away, for the truth didn't sink deeply into his heart. The one sown among the thorns represents one who receives a message, but all of life's busy distractions divided his heart, and his ambition for wealth results in the suffocation of the kingdom message, and it becomes fruitless. But what was sown on good, rich soil represents the one who hears and fully embraces the message of the kingdom. Their lives bear good fruit. Some yielded harvests of 30, some 60, some even 100 times as much what was even sown. The parable of the weeds. Then Jesus taught them another parable. Heaven's kingdom can be compared to a farmer who planted good seed in his field. But when everyone was asleep, an enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat and ran away. When the wheat sprouted and bore grain, the weeds will also appear. So the farmer's hired hands came to him and said, "Sir, wasn't that good seed that you sowed in the field? Where did all these weeds come from?" He answered, "This has to be the work of the enemy," replying to the devil. They replied, "Do you want us to go and gather up all the weeds?" He said, "No. If you pull out all the weeds, you might uproot the wheat at the same time. Let them both grow together until the harvest. And at that time, I'll tell my harvesters to gather the weeds first and then tie them up into bundles to be burned. They will harvest the wheat and put into my barn." Okay, in verse 25, what is called darnel, or ryegrass as the Greek word, it is a noxious weed that appears from a distance to look like wheat, but has poisonous black seeds. Black, like Satan. He also is very deceitful. He always imitates everything that Jesus does. So not only is that black seed growing up to look just like wheat, so it's mistaken to look like wheat, but it is not. And the reason why he doesn't let them allows the wheat to grow up in there, because sometimes God uses the tricks of Satan that he does to further us into where we need to be, into his blessings or to whatever. So to have the weeds grow up with the wheat is almost like a good thing. He uses it to our advantage, basically, is why he's allowed to do it. Not only that, but if you start doing all this plucking, you're not going to learn your lessons. You're not going to do what you're supposed to gain from that, basically. So that's why he also allows that weeds to grow up with the wheat, because we're gaining lessons, life lessons, and this and that along with it. So he uses what the devil was claiming to do for our benefits. So he allows these stupid things to happen that, a lot of people think that God does like a lot of evil, but he doesn't. It's actually of Satan. But even though it is going on and he doesn't do it, he allows it to continue on with our lives because we are to gain. See, God has a perfect plan. We may not understand it, may not see it, but see, he has the whole bigger picture. And as crazy it may seem, there's a reason why he does and allows everything. The parable of the tiny mustard seed. Then Jesus taught them another parable. Heaven's kingdom can be compared to a tiny mustard seed that a man takes and plants in his field. Although the smallest of all the seeds, it eventually grows into the greatest of garden plants, becoming a tree for birds to come and build their nests in its branches. Now the parable of the yeast. Then he taught them another parable. Heaven's kingdom can be compared to yeast that a woman takes and blends into 3 measures of flour, and then waits until the dough rises. These two parables about the tiny mustard seed and the yeast both teach of God's kingdom having a small beginning, but growing until its influence permeates and prevails into all the earth. The 3 measures of flour was nearly 22 kilos, enough to feed 300 people. What once looked unimpressive rises to impact and feed many. The number 3 always points to the resurrection of life. In verse 36, this is where Jesus begins to explain the parables. Jesus left the crowds and went inside the house where he was staying. Then his disciples approached him and asked, "Please explain the deeper meaning of the parable of the weeds growing in the field of wheat." He answered, "The man who sowed his seed in his field with good seeds is the Son of Man, and the field is the world. The good seeds I sow are the children of the kingdom realm. The weeds are the children of the evil one," referring to Satan. "And the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest points to the end of this age, and the harvesters are God's messengers. As the weeds are bundled up and thrown into the fire, so it will be at the close of the age. The Son of Man will send his messengers, and they will uproot everything out of his kingdom. All the lawless ones and everything that causes sin will be removed, and they will be thrown into the fiery furnace, where they will experience great